And speaking up and expressing opinions isn't election interference. Even when people express views outside your own country, and even when those people are very influential. And trust me, I say this with all humor, if American democracy can survive 10 years of Greta Thunberg scolding, you guys can survive a few months of Elon Musk.
This is Villain for All Seasons, Season 2, Episode 5. I'm Ben.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Dan. I think we should start recording at 9 a.m., but Andrew, Joe, and I need to be drinking wine as well. I think it's just a better vibe.
Yeah, man.
Sunday brunch.
It's a nice little evening vibe for me. So I've already done my, had my day.
Yeah.
How about that Super Bowl?
Oh yeah, that we filmed right before that.
Yeah.
Recorded. Yeah, because there's big talk about Doge ads that never came to fruition.
Yeah, we should ask
Yeah,
him.
and then the Kanye ad, which I looked into it, and apparently he did put out an ad, but it was only in the Los Angeles area.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew it
Which
was
is-
local districts.
Which is really fucking funny that he took out a local ad
Yeah.
for the Super Bowl.
Like, I mean, it was intentional, right? But is it because he's broke and he can only afford like a Los Angeles? I imagine that's still pretty pricey.
I mean, that can't be cheap. Yeah. Yeah, I probably couldn't afford it. I don't know. I mean,
You saw the ad, right?
I didn't watch it, but wasn't it just he was trying to get people to buy like Nazi shirts or something?
Yeah, but he's like in a dentist chair filming from an iPhone, and I think he's saying he's like he couldn't afford to film on anything other than an iPhone.
Hmm.
It's
Trying to get that Apple money.
yeah, 4D chess, I guess.
Sponsor.
5D.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, to be fair to Kanye, the picture quality is fantastic. So,
Yeah.
Production value, top tier.
Yeah.
He should do the Super Bowl next year, the halftime show, and just go on a rant. Like, just let him
yeah, let him do whatever.
speak his
Yeah.
truth.
He should do the Super Bowl halftime show filmed on his iPhone.
Is
the
Kanye
same
gonna have a
thing.
comeback? Or is it over?
I can't see how. I don't know. Gibson did it.
Who?
Mel Gibson.
Oh, yeah. Just refer to him by his last name.
Gibson.
Yeah.
I mean, Usher did the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Before that, he had a bunch of bad press because, like, I think he gave someone STDs or something like that.
What?
So, hey, anybody can be rehabilitated,
He'd be
right?
fucking.
So the
For-
the halftime show is going to be Spacey, Gibson, Kanye.
Does Spacey have like a William Shatner type
like a
spoken
spoken
word?
word
Yeah.
thing. Oh, he should. It'd probably be good.
Oh yeah,
He had the master class. He was the first master class. I don't know if you guys remember this. It
I
was
don't remember that.
Yeah, it was the first
He launched
master
with
class
them?
that ever came out was before they were doing like cooking stuff, and they kind of went from acting, which you definitely shouldn't learn from like a series of videos, and then
Right.
they went into actual practical skills that you absolutely can learn from videos, like Gordon Ramsay teaches cooking and stuff. I've watched those. They're actually, pretty good. And then they've just gone into like ethereal things of like, leadership
Mm,
or like negotiation,
Robert
and stuff.
Iger.
Like,
Uh,
yeah. But to the point that you sent us, Andrew, that now they've got George W. Bush teaching, was it crisis management? Amazing.
it's that
Painting.
and painting. It just talks about
Yeah.
like how to live your life. Like he's a guru now. He's filling the
Oh,
hood
it's just a
that,
he's a
lifestyle.
Renaissance man.
It's a
the ad, it
lifestyle
shows
thing?
his entire. Yeah, he talks about his history. He's like, but managing people and like I made the hard decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that, so after the whole Spacey thing went down, of course, Masterclass took his video series off the website. The fact that they put George W. Bush on,
Yeah.
it's like, let Spacey come back. If that's the bar,
Yeah.
like,
Do you think if Spacey was actually convicted, Trump would pardon him?
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it would have been better had
If
he
they
been
knew-
convicted.
If they knew each other on like the New York scene, absolutely.
Yeah.
He'll do anything
Which-
for a New York
Which they
comrade.
might have. Well, and all you have to do is become anti-woke for like a month, and then
Hmm.
like you're good.
Yeah.
Baptism by anti-woke.
Instead, Spacey just killed all of his victims. Isn't that right?
Yeah, you just had them murdered.
No witnesses.
No, there were like
Which,
three that died. Three accusers died.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't remember that. That's
There's a
awesome.
reason why.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
He also owns the
Right.
I
press.
part of that was he had connections to Jeffrey Epstein, and there was a whole conspiracy about, remember when he did the Let Me Be Frank weird ass Christmas
Oh yeah.
video?
Yeah.
There was a whole conspiracy about that with him with the royal family because he had connections to Prince Andrew, and he held up at the end when he gave like a toast. He was holding up a coronation mug for the Queen,
Oh
and
Oh,
the
my
online
gosh.
hordes have speculated that that was a sign to the royal
yeah.
family. And I gotta say, 1000% believe it. Because,
Wow.
like, right after that, his case got dropped in the UK, and then accusers started dying and stuff. So,
Who
He's
can
like
we
the
get on?
Kendrick of white male sexual assault
Yeah.
perpetrators. Like he just it's so cryptic, it's coded. You really
yeah.
have to pick apart his crimes.
So what's happening this week?
What's happening in the week? Well, we did have the Super Bowl halftime show, which I don't really want to talk about that much. A lot of people did,
Yeah.
but that was a good barometer for where the world's at. Of it was either the greatest thing ever for social justice or the worst display of DEI, or a attack on the deep state pedophile rings. So there was that. I don't think there's anything more to say about it. It was
It,
one of those three things.
well, the deep state pedophile thing is surprising because isn't everyone giving Jay-Z a bunch of shit for being connected to P. Diddy and like there's theories that he's like next. And he was the one who brought on Ken or like selected Kendrick to do it. I just saw that. So,
Oh, I didn't
Jay-Z
see
selected
that.
Kendrick to do the show.
yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't know that.
Okay.
Controlled opposition by Jay-Z though. He's pulling in Kendrick so that it looks like he's part of like the resistance hashtag.
Right.
Hashtag resistance.
Wait. Resistance to who?
The deep state pedophile rings.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
The
They're trying
Franklin,
to like uncover him. He's helping.
right. A lot of the Jay-Z news went away pretty quickly.
As it has a lot in the past.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into pop culture because I'm sure I'm going to get most of it wrong. That is not my strong suit.
Yeah, no, the same. Like, I feel like I'm always gonna be like at least 6 months behind
There was like an
at
elevator.
minimum.
I'm like reaching back to like 20 like 14 or something. There's like an elevator argument in like some Vegas
Oh,
hotel or something. That's the
yeah.
only thing I know.
Yeah,
She
that was
came out with a
when
breakup album. Grace is
the
hearing this from the back and she's like, he's screwing up my lore.
yeah, that was when Beyonce's sister Solange, I think,
Hmm.
hit Jay-Z. Before I came on, and when I were watching that movie The Gorge. Have you guys heard about this?
I saw the preview for it like 2 nights ago with Anya Taylor-Joy and the guy
Miles
from
Teller?
some I was listening to a podcast about aliens last night and I'm like for sure if there are alien human hybrids she is one of them.
Oh,
Like the
definitely.
big eyes, long neck.
Yeah.
I don't know. The way she moves. She hovers, she doesn't walk.
Yeah, that sounds
Fuck.
racist, but honestly not
It's
meaning to
like,
be.
well, this is why we need to bring people in from what South Africa because they're just being discriminated against apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, what was the deal with that? I haven't read the news on the decree.
The decree. It is essentially like the laws are, for some reason, favoring Black South Africans,
Right.
as if we're just gonna like ignore recent. It's actually kind of crazy now. Like I say it out loud, I'm thinking about it, and it's kind of like how we're trying to whitewash America's history by denying any African American studies or true like Black history in this country.
Yeah.
They're kind of doing that by just omitting what led to these laws. they're being mean to white people. White people have it so bad nowadays. I think
Right.
that's why he tapped into that, and maybe possibly just because Elon Musk is also from South Africa, that they want to immigrate
Right.
or
He's
allow
lobbied for this.
immigration.
That's been happening over the past year. Right-wing journalists would, anytime they had somebody to come on and talk about Gaza and the Palestinians, they would be like, well, what about your opinion about what's happening to white South African farmers, I think it was. So it's been also a big tool of obfuscating from the Palestinian issue, basically trying to make it seem like there's a white genocide happening somewhere else.
Right.
So how, but what is
Discuss.
happening to the farmers?
Yeah, yeah.
I know the stat has been thrown around that I've heard is like white South Africans own 75% of all farmland, but they make up 7% of the population. So there's like a disparity there. But are they trying to like redistribute the land? Is that what's going on there?
I remember a couple of years ago, there was outrage in the right wing media sphere about like there was these chants about killing white South African farmers. Do you remember those?
I bet they fucking slap.
It's kill the
Does it
boar.
say
Kill the
like
boar
with
chant.
does it say
Um,
like with like football chants if you look them up online it's like to the melody of Old MacDonald.
yeah, but to 9 to 5. Uh, this is not my gut reaction, but this is gonna be everybody's gut reaction. Old video of African leader chanting "Kill white farmers" viral. Musk reacts. Elon Musk criticized South African political leader Julius Malema after a 2-year-old video in which he's chanting "Kill the farmer" at a rally resurfaced on social media. Let's just watch it.
Dude, that stadium is packed.
Yeah, the studio, man. I love that he makes the rat-a-tat with his tongue for the gun. It's pretty great. Yeah, should I
That's
retweet it?
fucking, how do you get that many
Should I
people in
retweet
a
Musk?
stadium? That was a political rally?
The chat.
Also, if Elon tweeted it, I just naturally have like so many questions about the reality around it. He's just lied so much in the last year.
So Elon's reaction to this chant is he's chanting "Kill the white farmers" to a cheering stadium. The chant, historically linked to Peter Makoba, a former African National Congress youth leader, is rooted in the anti-apartheid struggle of the 1990s. Mr. Makoba, who died in 2002, argued that it was a metaphor rather than a literal call to violence. In 2022, South Africa's Equality Court ruled that the slogan did not constitute hate speech under the country's legal framework. Julius Malema, leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, has a history of making radical statements. His party, founded after his expulsion from the ANC, is now South Africa's third largest and advocates for land nationalization and wealth redistribution. These policies have gained support among many township residents who feel economically excluded even after apartheid ended.
Okay.
The EFF secured 11% of the vote in the last national elections.
Interesting. So it was a political rally. It was like everyone getting together in that stadium.
Yeah, by someone who was expelled from the ANC, which I believe was Mandela's party. So it
Uh,
sounds like,
More radical wing of.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like Musk is trying to make it seem like this guy is mainstream political. I mean, the stadium was packed.
I bet it was a good fucking time, man.
Look, here's what I would say to Elon Musk is this was 2 years ago. This gentleman was a young man at that time. And people make mistakes in their younger years. They grow, so they learn. So I don't think
Hmm.
we should define this leader and his thousands of adoring fans by one mistake that they made. I don't think that's fair, and I think people can change and people can be rehabilitated. So I
Yeah.
think I think Musk should offer him grace
Hmm.
and offer understanding because that's what we all need in this hectic world today.
That's the Vance defense, right?
It just goes with our Christian values that we need to learn how to forgive people again.
Exactly.
I don't think two rights or two wrongs don't make a right. We can't
Yeah.
cancel this man.
That's the worst thing you can do to a person is cancel them. So I will not stand here
It would go against our
and
free speech absolutist values.
exactly.
Are they going to give them like farmland in America? Like what would bringing the farmers over here actually do though? Like the persecuted farmers like, "Oh yeah, come over here and work the farms
I really don't know enough about this topic, but are these guys actually farming the land,
or just
or
owners?
yeah, are they owners of the land? Which
Yeah, it's a
I
good
feel like
point.
it's the latter, right?
Probably.
I heard I think it was Varoufakis talk about this in relation to Palestine and Israel. Like the reason that the Boers, the white South Africans, needed the black Africans, black South Africans was to work the land, right? Whereas in Palestine and Israel, they don't need the Palestinians. Israel's don't need the Palestinians. So there's no like it in blunt terms, no reason to keep them around, not, ethnically cleanse the area.
I think also they wanted to, because for a long time people have been calling Palestine an apartheid state. So this is a way of like reframing what is happening or what has happened in South Africa to be like, actually the white people got the short end of the stick here.
Yeah.
I think there might be a little bit of that going on. It's not accurate, obviously. I don't even know if I should put it in past tense anymore. It's like entered such a new phase. It's not even apartheid anymore. It's literally just a genocide and ethnic cleansing.
I don't mean this as a criticism. I mean this as actual curiosity. Do you think it's worth calling it a genocide?
Like, is it
I've
constructive?
just noticed, like, people like to quibble over calling it a genocide. I mean, at the very, very least, it's mass murder.
Yeah, but and then some people are like, well, that's just war, baby.
Yeah.
It's just war. So genocide, like calling people Nazis, has like a very specific connotation to World War II and the concentration camps.
Yeah.
And I think genocide is an accurate term. People were calling it a Holocaust, and I think that would be kind of an overreach just because it's the Holocaust to me was like a, not that this wasn't systematic, but a factory-like condition of murder where the process of killing all these people in Palestine was more just, an act of like war crime. Sorry to say it so flippantly, but I just came to the conclusion that I found the word I was looking for.
I think it's absolutely a genocide, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think calling it a Holocaust is a very apt term. And, we've talked on this show before about how flippantly people throw around the Nazi moniker. I think it actually
Hmm.
works pretty well when you're talking about what the Israelis are doing. I think what they are doing is the most Nazi-esque when you're talking in terms of a fascist state and a fascist state conducting a genocide. I think the comparison is very apt.
I think it's tough making these historical references that just because people are going to nitpick it. They're like, well, it's actually not really like it is a democracy. It's not a fascist state. It's not like a dictator, an authoritarian state.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
just
fuck
start
them. I
picking.
don't need to argue with them. I mean, this
Look,
is the
we're talking
thing.
about consequences,
The
and the
big the biggest
consequences.
yeah, but the biggest waste of your time that you could possibly have is to argue with the Zionists at this point in
Yeah.
time. Like, and that's why comparing them to Nazis, I think, is very, very accurate. Like, I wouldn't sit and have a debate with a neo-Nazi, and I
Hmm.
wouldn't sit and have a debate with an apartheid South African,
Hmm.
and I sure shit wouldn't have a debate with the Zionists because they're all cut from the same fucking cloth. It is the biggest waste of time to split hairs with them, which is the whole
Yeah.
Zionist project when
Hmm.
it comes to arguing, is to split hairs and obfuscate. And what is the thing that they were always saying for years and years until just recently when we've had really mask off is it's too complicated. You don't understand this. You're not
Hmm.
Jewish or you're not Arab or you're not Muslim. You couldn't possibly
Yeah, people have said that to me.
understand the complexity of this until, over the
Whose land is
last,
it? Well, 4,000 years ago when
yeah,
Moses
yeah,
crossed and then and then this happened and
until,
like, well,
yeah,
uh,
until finally in the last, year and a half, people have woken up and gone, wait, what the fuck is complicated about this exactly?
yeah.
Nothing's fucking complicated about it. It's the most straightforward apartheid system and now straightforward genocide. It's much more obviously a genocide than anything you've seen in like Rwanda or even Nazi Germany. Nazi like the I can't remember who was saying this, but like, the Nazis had at least the good sense to try and cover up the genocide they were doing. The Israelis are fucking broadcasting it for everyone to see on social media and in their state media, in their mainstream media. They had open discussions after the rape cases came out in their prison. Calling them prisons is even kind of a generous term. I would call them, torture factories where like they're like, okay, yes, well, we do rape Palestinian prisons, but is that really so bad? I mean, like, what more evidence does anybody need at that point to call it that? And then you've seen the, the shift in Zionists too, where they go from it's not an apartheid state and we are not conducting a genocide. Oh, that was a mistake. We didn't mean to bomb that hospital. That was Hamas. Oh, actually, we did bomb that hospital, but
Hmm.
it was an accident too. Actually, it's good that we bombed that hospital because Hamas was down there.
Yeah.
Two, it's good that we bomb hospitals because we need to wipe these people out. So now that we've really had the mask off going, yeah, actually, this is the project. It's always, and I would argue, always been a genocidal project, Zionism. That was always the point of it. You cannot have Zionism is intrinsically a colonial white supremacist project, and it is intrinsically genocidal because you can't have full Zionism and full state of Israel without eradicating these people. So there's not really you can fluff it up with any language you want. That is the project. And people in the West are so uncomfortable talking about it in those terms, but you know who aren't comfortable talking about it in those terms? Israelis. Look at their media. Look at their commentary. And well, I misspoke, but yeah, their comedy as well. I mean, like the wholes of the society are so open about this. Like in some, in a way, I guess it's refreshing that they're able to at least be honest about who they are and what they're doing. Whereas, yeah, in the West, it's always tried to be coded in this nice language because they know they have to dress it up in this certain way to make it acceptable. Israelis got no time for any of that shit. They don't need to fucking put up this like this fiction that what they're doing is nice or measured or that they actually care about or value Arab lives in any way. I don't know why it's so hard for people to talk about it, especially people on the left. You don't need to fucking tiptoe around these people about this anymore. They don't tiptoe around it.
I think you had a good point about like these semantic traps and the like nitpickingness. The one conversation I had with a friend who was a Zionist, who I guess we're not friends anymore. Not really even by my choice. I try to be tolerant and like talk to people, but I guess I liked the wrong post on Instagram or something.
Is that why
Uh,
you are not friends anymore?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. It just went silent.
That must have hurt their feelings.
Yeah, I don't. I actually went out of my way to not because I knew he was so like not obsessed, but kind of he was down the rabbit hole quite a bit, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna get anywhere. It was kind of like where you said, I'm like, well, I'm not even gonna voice my opinion. Like we be playing Xbox and you talk about it literally every time, and I'm like, okay, let's
Yeah.
change this fucking
It's the
subject.
biggest waste of time you could have
Yeah,
is trying to
like dude,
change
we're
their
trying to like
minds.
hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that like consumed his life. And but even from him, he brought to my knowledge it was like the Holocaust was not a word, it was something that was defined during the Nuremberg trials. And I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting. I'm a fan of language. I like etymologies and all that." And like so that's the only reason I give it pause to not call it a Holocaust, because that's maybe specifically refers to one incident in history, where I think genocide is completely fine. But this is all semantic and very,
Yeah.
again, nuanced. And I mean, it's just a bad thing that happened. And I think calling what the stage before this apartheid makes complete sense and mirrors almost identically what was happening in South Africa. In whitewashing it, well, except with that, I think there's far less murder.
Yeah, but like if you're gonna make it as a rhetorical argument, then and I'm not saying you're doing this, but in terms of rhetoric, then Holocaust is a great term to use because the Holocaust, the first one, is the excuse that Zionists throw out for why this fucking shitty nation has to exist is because of the Holocaust. And now it is the excuse of why they get to do their own genocide. So calling it another Holocaust, I think, is actually a very good rhetorical tool with
Have you heard
which
that
to
argument
combat it.
literally? They're like, well, this happened to us, so we have the right to like defend and protect ourselves. Is that the argument?
There's an implication of that, that because this happened to us, anything that we do is
Yeah.
justified to maintain our ethno state.
Yeah.
Anything that maintains the state of Israel is completely justified because we have to have this, because we have to have it because of the Holocaust.
Yeah, and I definitely have seen that like offense as a form of defense. It almost seems like every action that they've had, I think moving into Syria recently, like they started bombing hospitals in Lebanon, and I was like, oh my God, they're doing the same exact thing. They're like, well, that's where they're hiding. It's like no, I'm
Yeah.
starting to feel
Yeah.
like this is just a thing you do to you know, sow chaos, and it's not necessarily like it's not necessary.
Yeah, isn't that a wild thing that every Arab nation just keeps all of their military bases and hospitals? Isn't that
Hospitals
wild
and
that
preschools.
like yeah,
Yeah.
fucking Arabs are crazy, aren't
It's
they?
because
That
they're
they would just
monsters and they use
they
children as
they
human shields. They're like,
Yeah.
only
what?
operate.
They're not human. They're animals. Oh my God.
This is gonna get clipped out of context, then we're gonna be the ones fucked.
Yeah, dude. Join our master class on how to judge the Middle East from an American perspective.
Not to change the subject, but Elon is once again a father.
Wait, he had another
Ugh.
kid?
Oh, you guys didn't hear about this?
No.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Would it surprise you if he just came in a jar and inseminated like 100 women in one day? He's kind of on his own little like eugenic experiment
Honestly,
himself.
I mean, this is a big thing with these Silicon Valley folks is that, there's different Silicon Valley people that like believe that they need to repopulate the earth with like high value intellects and stuff.
Yeah.
So they do ha and he definitely subscribes to that. But honestly, if he was going to just dole out his sperm and artificially inseminate women, wouldn't that be like much kinder to the women
To the woman.
so they don't have to have sex with Elon Musk? I mean, that
Yeah.
would be the more humanitarian way to do it.
Oh
Yeah,
man, dude,
instead they
I
had to like
never
chase him down
envisioned
on
it.
Twitter and announce it
Yeah.
to the world that way, like try to publicly shame him into paying child support.
Also, there's similar to how I feel about Trump, there's no way he like actually enjoys the act of coitus, right?
I didn't know you
Like
thought that, but go
I
on.
think that's true.
Go on, King.
I don't I don't think Trump does. Maybe he did at some point, but like, well, Trump likes it in probably like the chauvinist. He likes the trophy value of it, like having
Yeah.
like a 12-point buck mounted on your wall, but like doesn't actually like hunting. Like with like Stormy Daniels, it's like, yeah, I did that, right? But like, what the fuck does sex look like for one of these guys?
Is it just
And then
because of
yeah,
ego? Like
yeah,
they're
yeah.
too
I
self-obsessed?
think even if you're a fan of what Elon Musk is doing right now, I don't think there's a lot of people with a straight face could look at him and say that looks like a happy, fulfilled individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this is a miserable, miserable person who has probably never been liked and never been cool. And it's like just wants that more than anything. Want like that guy has all the money in the world and he still can't buy himself friends. And he also apparently can't buy good looks either, like because he's probably too fucking lazy
Well, he's got good
and
hair
stupid to
plugs.
do. It's got yeah, well,
He's got,
there's that.
Guys,
He's got
I,
Bezos beat there.
so when Ashley St. Clair, who is I guess, conservative influencer, author, whatever, this is what she posted on Twitter. 5 months ago, I welcomed a new baby into the world. Elon Musk is the father. I have
Oh
not
shit.
previously disclosed this to protect our child's privacy and safety, but in recent days, it has become clear that tabloid media intends to do so, regardless of the harm it will cause. I intend to allow our child to grow up in a normal and safe environment. For that reason, I ask the media to honor our child's privacy and refrain from invasive reporting. Bullshit. And also, just to announce it that way, I don't know. Op.
He has such a type too, which is why I'm like he's trying to breed a certain type. Again, going back to like the alien
Type
figure,
2
like
diabetes.
yeah, he's trying to weaken the lower part of the gene pool. Yeah, so if you look at all of his ex-wives and like actual not even wives, I think, but the people he's sired with, he has like such Aryan ideals for his children and the ones he breeds with. They're all like milky white skin with bleach blonde hair, even though it's just like naturally blonde. Grimes, the girl from Tallulah Riley or something like that, who's just an absolute babe, by the way. It's such a shame.
Shame about Grimes too.
I know it's a thing that like, you know, two hot people can still sire like a not good looking child, but I don't think there's any amount of hot from the mother's side that can say what Elon Musk is bringing to the table. That man is disgusting.
Yeah, my favorite comparison was Baron and Harkonnen from Dune.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for
that
sure.
photo of him just with like a black bathing suit and his
yeah,
big old whale tummy.
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. I mean, that's what like sex with him probably is like. It's probably like you have to ride this giant slug man.
yeah.
Ooga waga jogo. I just came. Wasn't good for you.
Yes,
I can't do it. I
yes.
can't do it, Moss.
Did
Well,
you come too? Yes.
well, we answered that call-in question about Elon's new child. What else is going on?
Should we touch on the Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer shit just to
Oh yeah, yeah.
make sure to
Yeah,
cover our bases of Democrats fucking up?
yeah, yeah.
This has been around the podcast sphere and news this week from, you know, left-wing media. But this comes from commondreams.org. Headline: Dems reportedly angry that progressives are pushing them to act like an opposition party. And then we have a quote here. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are architects of the crisis that allowed Trump's fascism to arise and succeed, argued one progressive organizer. They have zero credibility to be leading the fights we face today. So yeah, in a nutshell, what's happening is that similar to our Ryan mentioned this in our discussion with him last week, that you know, if you go on Blue Sky or wherever the fuck liberals are talking to each other, there actually is a big appetite for resistance against Trump. We're just not really seeing it in the actions of Democratic lawmakers. And what's happening is progressive groups are calling into their elected officials, the representatives, and saying, why the fuck aren't you doing anything
Yeah.
about, you know, pick your poison, Trump's executive orders, what the merry brand of pranksters at Doge are doing, all of these edicts that are coming down by the Trump administration. Constituencies are not happy with it. Now, in a closed door meeting with, you know, top brass Democrats, including Hakeem Jeffries, who's now the head of the DNC, right, or
House Minority Leader.
Yeah.
House Minority Leader,
New
and
Nancy.
Chuck Schumer, they are mad. They're very mad, and wouldn't you know it, they're not very mad at Donald Trump or Elon Musk or the MAGA movement at large. Who they are mad about
Or
are these,
themselves.
yeah, or themselves, least of all, is
Mm.
they are mad at progressive groups calling their offices and inundating them with complaints of quite simply, why aren't you doing anything?
hmm I've never seen a party roll over like this. So if you remember when Obama took over, there were I forget the names of all these. What was like the caucus? Was it the Freedom Caucus that got
Yeah,
assembled in the time when they lost all power after Bush?
yeah. The
Freedom
Tea
Caucus,
Party.
and
Nothing
then
like that is happening. What
and then
what
the Tea Party. The
Tea
Tea
Party is the
Party
one I was
rose out
thinking
of that,
of.
of
Yeah,
That's
course.
right.
Yeah,
they coalesced under the name.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
Yep.
they had like foundational ideas and ideologies. They're like, no, we're gonna form behind this idea. Nothing like that is happening on the left.
yeah.
And all the people in power, they seem, I mean, it's hard to say that they're not like kind of complicit and letting and rolling over and just letting it happen because they like feel like this needs to run its course or something. I'm so sick of people talking about this is a mandate from the people. And the only reason I can think that everyone is complicit or okay with the status quo as it is right now is because he did win the popular vote this time.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of. Parties have been out of power, quote unquote, like all the time, completely out of power. The In 2020, the Democrats had both chambers of Congress and the presidency, and the Republicans weren't like, "Fuck, well, there's nothing we can do."
Yeah. Also, MAGA came directly from what you're talking about, like the Freedom Caucus and the Tea Party, like there's a direct thread from that
Yes. Yeah.
dissatisfaction and that mobilizing to what became Donald Trump and the MAGA
The
movement.
powerhouse that is the
Yeah,
Republican Party now.
like Donald Trump loves to paint MAGA as something of like he came in as like a Christ-like savior who just created this movement out of thin air, but that's not true. Actually, it was ripe for the picking. Like the ideology and the people were there for it. They just needed the charismatic leader to
Hmm.
come in and create it. And that's what he did. And Democrats don't want to do that. I think
Yeah.
that's the real thing I get from this. You know, it reminds me of that old South Park episode where they're talking about the gay marriage debate and the people keep protesting at the governor's office, and the governor's like, he's just mad that he has to deal with it.
Hmm. It's inconveniencing
Like,
him.
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
like he's not anti-gay marriage, but he just does, he's like, why do I have to do this? I think that's what we get. There's a bit of that from the Democrats, and I think also the thing that they're pissed about, it's in a way a mask off moment where like the Trump administration, the first one and the second one now are a real mask off moment of like what America actually is. Yes, it actually is an oligarchy. It has been for a long time. There was a fucking Stanford study from like 15 years ago that said that America is an oligarchy. It's not a constitutional democracy. So we have that side of it. And then I think the
Are
Democrats are showing us their version of the mascot thing where they're going, hey, motherfuckers, we aren't here to do that. That is not what we do. We are not actually here to provide real opposition. So why
Yeah.
the fuck are you, why leave us alone? Why are
Hmm.
you trying to make us do something? That's not what we do.
Well, yeah,
Do
I
you
think
think?
Andrew brought it up earlier and made a great point. Is like there's just zero ideology to go on. They have no
Yeah.
rallying cry. You know, they suffocated the Bernie movement, which was an evolution of Occupy Wall Street, right?
Mhm.
I mean, they have nothing. So like, where is the counterpoint to right
Not
wing
that it doesn't
politics?
exist. I mean, those people, I think we're all kind of identifying with that to some degree. Like we're radical leftist, woke ideologues. So it's they just won't absorb it. Like Ben saying, I think the Democrats, even if they were hand gifted this like powerful deal with the devil in their eyes type person, I don't think they would take it. I
Well, they
think they'd rather
did.
be out
No.
of power than
You don't think Bernie was that?
Yeah, Bernie
no, I think
was
he
that.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm saying now
And they
Bernie's
quashed him.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
Yeah.
but that's
That's
after
the
the
thing
fact.
is the Democrats' version of the Tea Party existed, and it was stuff like Occupy, and it is
Mhm.
stuff like what we're seeing in the Free Palestine movement, and what you're seeing with, or what we saw with Bernie. That is what the Democratic version of the Tea Party would have been. Is it would have been Occupy, it would have been the Free Palestine movement, it would have been Black Lives Matter in a real way, Black Lives Matter, not how it got obfuscated, and it would have been Bernie, and they could have had that, but they don't want that. Like they never
Yeah.
wanted that. They would rather have, because everybody in the United States, in Washington, is right wing or center right. So that's what they're mad about.
I mean, optically, they think they still have it with the squad, the fraud squad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the famous example is, of course, AOC voting for the Iron Dome.
Yeah.
Oh.
They've probably beat her down enough now that, well, I don't know. Do you think they beat her down enough that they'll let her run for president?
No. No. Also, I think there's a thing of
Not
seniority.
yet. She needs another 20 years.
Of indoctrination.
Yeah.
She's definitely learned how to play the game a little bit more, which I don't think I can necessarily like blame her for. I mean, she's one per four people in the squad or whatever it is now. I
Well, I
think
mean,
they have like a bad band. They have members come in and out
the
uh over the seasons.
well, the suggestion is that she's going to run for Senate.
Yeah,
Great.
maybe.
I don't
She
know.
could
I don't
probably.
care.
What was that?
I
Distinction
don't
without
care about
difference at
her,
this point.
but
what was the committee that
the
they denied her for?
Yeah, the House Democrats voted to recommend Jerry Conley over AOC for the House oversight, so she lost that.
Yeah, and everyone knows who Jerry Conley is. He's a very popular guy. He's got a lot of like energy and longevity behind him in his career. He'll
Yeah.
probably, I've been hoping he
he
was going to run for president in 2020
He's
because
my
I
right
knew who
in.
he was. I definitely knew who he was. I'd still
well,
know who he is.
and honestly, there's no way that AOC could have ever stood up to him because she can't match his Instagram following. I mean,
Right. The
His live
an
ground
streams are
absolute
must
dynamo. Yeah,
watch.
yeah.
his ground game's insane. So this is kind of something I think about time to time. When everyone's campaigning and trying to raise money, everyone throws out this arbitrary $27 donation. Like
Yeah.
Republicans will do it, other Democrats will do it. The origin of that is the average dollar amount given to Bernie Sanders in the 2016 campaign was $27. So
Yeah.
they just added that as a little check mark, and it's like, oh, this seems like, pretty moderate amount of money. It's like a not substantial, but it's not a little. Like $5 is like a cup of coffee.
That is the most McKinsey ass like
Yeah,
boardroom idea
I
of
didn't even think of that.
organizing I've ever heard in my life. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, because 27 will bring to mind
Hmm.
what Bernie was, and that will capture
Yeah.
the same thing as like they're looking to steal, they're looking to catch that wave that Bernie had by being like, yeah, $27. It's basically the same thing as the Bernie movement.
Yeah, so the Munich Security Conference is basically a similar to Davos, which is a bunch of business leaders come to meet. Munich Security Conference is a bunch of European leaders come to meet in Munich to discuss European security matters, which often range well beyond Europe. So JD Vance went there recently, and ruffled feathers, made people upset, whatever you want to call it. But I was reading the transcript of his speech, and I thought it was interesting. I think what I found interesting about it is that they're trying to position, in my opinion, JD as like an ideologue for the Trump administration. I don't know which of you guys have actually read this, but if you have any thoughts before I start just quoting
Well,
Vance.
I watched it.
Oh,
Um,
jeez,
yeah,
hardcore.
I watched it. I mean, it's about a 20-minute speech, and it's really, I don't know. There's a difference between reading it like clips of because when you read just the clips of it, it's very Handmaid's Tale-esque, and I don't like making that comparison often, but it is very much a politician pushing for a white Christian society.
Mm.
Um, but when you listen to it, is a very different thing because, first of all, it reminded me of the ascension of Ron DeSantis, where everyone was saying, "Oh, this is Trump 2.0. He's even worse because he's smart." Which, by the way, I think the jury's still out on that thing if Ron DeSantis is smarter than uh, Donald Trump. But when people really thought that he was going to be the next, in a similar way that people thought Kamala Harris would be a more effective version of Hillary
Smarter Joe
Clinton.
Biden.
Yeah, and then what
No such
happened?
thing.
Jury's out on that.
Yeah, and then what happened? We all heard Ron DeSantis speak, and you were like, "Oh, okay, this guy's not a threat at all. He has no riz, and it just sounds like a scolding nerd." And that's similar to what I got from JD Vance. So JD Vance is sort of, Dan, would you agree with this? Like, sort of scolding European leaders
Yeah, that's what
about
people were
basically
upset.
basically they're not doing enough for white Christian people, which I could imagine when you're talking to the leaders of Europe, they found that very offensive. Some of the headlines are misleading as well because they're trying to paint it like European leaders are like, we're not on board with all of this, white Christian nationalism
Mm.
like the US is, where it's anything but
We'll
leaders in Germany and England
I was
were happy were not unhappy about the message. They were unhappy about being misrepresented as like, again, woke and gay and pro-Islam. But the other thing you get from it is So Vance talks for 20 minutes and he is scolding everybody and sounding like kind of a dipshit nerd. But a thing that you lose when you get the transcripts is he had no response from the audience at this. Anytime he was making a point, he would have like one lone person who was probably his assistant
Hmm.
Yeah.
clapping in the
Yeah. Well,
background.
his wife was there,
Uh,
so, but
yeah, it was Zusha.
yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't get laughed at though, like Trump at the UN.
Not quite that, which is surprising because his points were laughable. But yeah,
I'll have
Dan,
to watch it. This is
Yeah.
if you
different
want
than
to,
the
Well,
AI conference that he
it's
went to.
yeah, it's
yeah.
Okay, I saw that
very
one.
I
it's whatever the opposite of big dick energy is what JD Vance is in this speech.
well, this will give a taste of what he was talking about, and I want us to comment after this. This is a few paragraphs, so hang with me here. I looked to Brussels, where EU Commission commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest, the moment they spot what they've judged to be hateful content. Or to this very country where police have carried out raids against citizens suspecting of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of combating misogyny on the internet. I looked to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Quran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscious rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes, not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. After British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of his unborn son. He and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 20 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal cost to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say this was a fluke, a one-off, a crazy example of a badly written law enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within a so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime in Britain and across Europe.
I deeply suspect that last part is not true. But what do I know? Law, like I've said it before, laws are pretty dumb.
I got a spoiler alert for you. None of that is accurately portrayed. Absolute bullshit on
Yeah.
all of it. And again, this is the thing where I'm saying like European leaders were probably really pissed off about this for this reason is I know that on the conservative right in the United States, they look at European nations as like these like woke liberal strongholds, basically because they have some kind of social welfare.
Right.
Uh,
Mhm.
but like these countries are deeply, deeply racist and Islamophobic, and there is deep levels of misogyny and all of that. So like everything he's saying here is just absolute horseshit.
Yeah.
You did some
So
research on it, on
yeah,
the Scottish one in particular.
So yeah, this prosecution of praying near an abortion clinic. So yeah, that did technically happen. But as anyone in the US could probably imagine, those laws of like it's not okay to do silent prayer within so much distance of an abortion clinic, use your imagination, is not for one solitary person with a fucking candle, just
Yeah.
like sitting there because as he painted it, like this idea of like I'm just mourning. This is what this Adam Smith Connor guy was allegedly there praying for the abortion that he and his wife had once years before, and he was sad about it. The reason that that law exists is so that organizations like the who's the God Hates Fags Church?
Uh,
Bro.
Westboro
Westboro.
Baptist. Yeah. Yeah. The reason those laws were enacted, so groups similar to the Westboro Baptist Church don't show up in droves outside of a fucking abortion clinic and intimidate people.
Hmm.
And also, those sorts of silent prayer protests often do end up in actual violence. So the idea that it's this frivolous law that's just against prayer is absolute horseshit.
Seems to be a really hard
So
time discerning between like violence and free speech protest with the MAGA group.
yeah, yeah, well, and also, I'm sorry, like you can call it prayer or you can call it whatever, but like if a vulnerable woman is going into an abortion clinic to get a medical operation and you have people out there saying, I'm praying for your souls and whatever, even however they want to dress it up,
Hmm.
you can not tell me that that is not fucking intimidation. So
Right.
that's first of all there. Also, this specific guy, yes, he was fined. But he was quietly asked to. By the way, I think this is something that Americans need to understand. There's a very different relationship here with police than it is with police in America. Um, Whereas, like every time you're interacting with a police officer in the United States, I can only imagine how it is if you're not a white guy, but
Hmm.
like feels like a form of intimidation. Police officers here are
Yeah.
actually genuinely very like courteous and level-headed. Maybe it's because they don't have like a murder weapon on their
Yeah.
hip. I don't know. We'd have to do a study on that. So he was very politely asked to leave. It took an hour and 40 minutes to get him to leave. So, like, acting like this guy was just like there silently praying and probably just being a nice Christian man, I think is debatable. Second of all, yes, he was fined after refusing these requests for, again, an hour and 40 minutes. Whereas, you can imagine what would have happened if you tried to refuse a cop's request in the United States for an hour and 40 minutes. You would have been
Be a minute, 30
either
seconds.
yeah, minute
Yeah.
minute 40 before you got the shit kicked out of you if you're white, and then 30 seconds before you got fucking tasered or shot if you're not. So there's that. Also, yes, he was fined after this, but his legal fees have already been covered by probably I can't remember the name of the organization, but probably someone that JD Vance is real good friends with. The other thing, it's not even worth talking about, but the restrictions on private prayer in Scotland. Uh, I don't know what to say about that. That's just not true.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I don't know. This one really reminded me of when.
This is also the cats ate or they eat your fucking cats guy. Like they just have no
Yeah,
credibility.
yeah. Well, it's a
He'll just say
similar thing.
shit. Doesn't matter if it's real.
It's a similar thing that happened under the Trump administration, the first Trump administration, when they were touting this conspiracy that there were quote Muslim no-go zones in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
So they were they were literally saying that there were entire pockets of the United Kingdom, one of which being Birmingham, the entire city of Birmingham. For those of you who don't know, Birmingham is the second largest city in the United Kingdom behind London. That, according to certain US right-wing politicians, they said Birmingham was a Muslim no-go zone that cops would not enter because it operated under Sharia law. This is the same fucking thing.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah.
It was like Muslim run, like
Yeah, yeah. No, it
cartel
was like
territory
yeah,
that the government had no
literally
access to.
yeah, there was like ISIS checkpoints when you try to enter fucking Birmingham. Like,
Amazing.
yeah.
So they
So,
overran the Peaky Blinders then.
yeah. Bring back the blinders. The Scottish thing is absolute horseshit. Also, you know what most people are in Scotland? Fucking white and Christian.
Yeah.
So the other thing with Sweden with the Quran burning, I didn't hear about this specific instance from Sweden. So there was a mass shooting at the
Risbergskra,
school in
Örebro.
Sweden. This is 10 people killed. And when the initial reporting came out in the UK, they just had, mass shooting at this school in Sweden. Who did they have a picture of? Not the fucking white Swedish guy that did it, just some random brown person.
That when they were showing the murder on TV, they just put a brown person on
Yes. Yeah.
an
Yeah.
Oh,
arbitrary
jeez.
Yeah.
Muslim-looking person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The BBC and other outlets just put up a random brown person before when
But
you
it was
see
like
the
a
real
white Christian nationalist
the
type of
re
guy.
the real shooter. I don't know what his reasoning was behind it. He was maybe just, went crazy because of the weather,
Mm.
as people in Scandinavia are wont to do. But he was the most Swedish looking white person you've ever seen in your life. So that's another thing of this. And then yeah, just going back to the censorship on the whole and police action against activists or people with, thoughts going that is happening in Europe a lot. That's happening in Germany, that's happening in the United Kingdom, that's probably happening in other European nations of censorship, social media monitoring, trying to
Li-
cancel people's visas and deport people. Guess who it's happening to? Fucking Palestine activists. That's who it's
Mm.
happening to. It's not happening to men who say anti-feminist bullshit. That's the thing that was probably annoying these European leaders. They're like, yeah, we're doing that, but like to the brown people.
Let me just add some more excerpts from this because I do think it ties into that, and I do think I just want to round out this conversation about how much of this was bullshit, or if it
Okay.
was bullshit, what we think about it. So bear with me here, just a few more. Free speech, I fear, is in retreat and in the interest of comedy, my friends, but also in the interest of truth. I will admit that sometimes the loudest voices for censorship have come not from within Europe, but from within my own country, where the prior administration threatened and bullied social media companies to censor so-called misinformation. Misinformation, like, for example, the idea that coronavirus had likely leaked from a laboratory in China. Our own government encouraged private companies to silence people who dared to utter what turned out to be an obvious truth. So I come here today not just with an observation, but with an offer. And just as the Biden administration seemed desperate to silence people for speaking their minds, the Trump administration will do precisely the opposite. And I hope that we can work this out together. This next line really stood out to me, and I just want to I think this might be a good one to end on. In Washington, there's a new sheriff in town, and under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer them in the public sphere. Now, we're at the point, of course, that the situation has gotten so bad that this December, Romania straight up canceled the results of a presidential election based on the flimsy suspicions of an intelligence agency and enormous pressure from its colonial neighbors or continental neighbors. Now, as I understand it, the argument was that Russian disinformation had infected the Romanian elections. But I'd asked my European friends to have some perspective. You can believe it's wrong for Russia to buy social media advertisements to influence your elections. We certainly do. You can condemn it on the world stage even. But if your democracy can be destroyed with a few $100,000 of digital advertising from a foreign country, then it wasn't very strong to begin with.
Okay. Isn't that
I
the
mean,
whole?
that's a jab at Clinton, right?
It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 2016. But I mean, that is true though, wasn't it? That like the Russians did buy ad space in the 2016 American election. I know I'm about to open up a whole can of worms with you guys,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
but that
but
was
to
There's no way it swayed the election.
oh yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's an argument. But they did do it. I think the right probably did it to just a greater effect. I don't think it was Russia. I think it's, we'll just table that because I know that's gonna be a whole can of worms. No, yeah, the right was just better at social media.
No.
That's what
They
that
bragged
amounts
about
to.
it.
Yeah, the Cambridge
Yeah.
Analytica,
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah,
Oh gosh, what was his name? Trump's old digital guy.
Polish last name, right?
Yeah, I
I
think.
forget his name. I think he beat a woman and got
Yeah,
fired
his
for it.
wife. Yeah.
He would never get fired for that now. I can't believe they canceled him.
Gosh, what was that guy's fucking name? Brad Parscale. Anyways, yeah, I just thought that was they called out the Romanian elections. I thought even if it was a jab at Clinton, I thought the fact that he was willing to mention it and blame intelligence agencies was big.
Yeah.
But my bigger question about the speech is that, he keeps going back to the censorship and he's like, oh, we'll defend your right to say whatever you want in the public sphere. Bullshit or not?
Yeah, absolute
Oh,
bullshit.
obvious bullshit. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he'll defend it if it aligns with his agenda.
This comes the same week that they banned the AP from attending the White House press briefing. So for not
Yeah.
saying Gulf of America.
Oh my God. I forgot about that. It's tactically a really good move on his part. It checks all the boxes, like being pretty tapped into like the domestic calls for, like Christianity is under threat, freedom of speech is under threat. But you have to remember, this is J.D. Vance. This is a man who, after pretty much cornered for making up lies about what was happening in Springfield, Ohio, about Haitians eating people's dogs. That was crazy. Came out and said he's like, well, if a lie is what makes people talk about and start
Yeah.
thinking about these issues, then that's okay. And that's what he's
Yeah.
doing here. He's just
Yeah.
lying to arouse suspicion in this uh, Tucker Carlson type of I'm just asking questions, or I just think it's peculiar that
Yeah.
name false statement. You're now creating this like false narrative, this weird world that we live in. People will probably never go to Europe, think about Europe this way in America. I mean, this is the most press I've ever seen a vice president ever get. He is definitely like the more grown up face of MAGA now. Although, I mean, he's a spokesperson for it. I don't think he's like actually like full of that agenda, but he's certainly articulating it in a smarter way. But as Ben said, it is true. I mean, the anti like Muslim sentiment in Europe. I mean, we're gonna see I'm pretty nervous about this German election coming up on the 23rd. Um,
Yeah, you should be.
Elon Musk sponsoring essentially, and I don't know if this happened within the last week, but that photo of him on stage like telecomming in with like the Big Brother face
I thought
speaking
that was
down to a
fake.
crowd.
I thought you actually created that.
No, I didn't create that. That's what's that party called? German far right party?
Alternative or Deutschland.
Alternative Deutsch.
AFD.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in like anything, but I think just hearing the way that like France, the more moderate Macron going to the far right leaders after the left won, Macron's like, oh well,
Oh
we don't
yeah, I
really
mean,
want to go that far left, so we're gonna go side with like Marie Le Pen
yeah,
and
yeah.
that squad.
The left
That was
coalition
fucking
banded
weird.
together. Yeah, and
Yeah,
they wouldn't elect a leader for the National Assembly.
would just totally acting like a Democrat. Like, no, we're not
Yeah,
gonna, we're
yeah.
gonna go over here and pretend
I mean,
like
I think that was a good look into if you could time travel and have an alternate reality where Corbyn had actually got 10 Downing Street or where
mm,
Bernie had actually gotten the White House. I think you saw really clearly in France what would actually happen if you
Hmm.
got real leftist majority is that they
yeah.
would just fucking get Kennedy'd or like
Yeah.
either legislatively or literally.
I think we're beyond like
They
assassinating
would
people. I think it's legislatively. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
They
But
would have
like
found a couple more mansions.
if they had to, they would yeah, they'll find one way or another to fucking sweep the leg and poleaxe these people.
Poleaxe, goddamn. I've been playing this medieval game. I love the poleaxe. Yeah,
It's a
also like
superior medieval weapon.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
undefeatable. Yeah, but now we're seeing it on the other side where there's absolutely no one falling out of rank on the Republican side domestically. I know we're talking about more international things now, but it's so weird that just like everything trends to the right, even in Europe to some degree. Like they're just, and
Oh, totally.
it might be like conservative. So my sister gave me this great book about it's called like The Reactionary Mind. And it's about how conservatives like just their entire ideology is reaction based. And it's just a response mechanism to maintain essentially a status quo, whether it be religious ideologies, morals, the family structure, things like this, like in times of change. And I think an organism like a government is inherently conservative because it wants to, if you want to think about it on the level of the people, they want to stay in charge, they want to stay in power, they don't want to see a new crop of people show up. So they're going to kind of stymie any type of movement from where they are. Like the center is the safest place. So I don't know, maybe there's something to that. I don't even know if that made sense, but it was on my mind.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is like they're just going to maintain power. They will stymie any other efforts to
Yes.
really
Yeah,
displace
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Current
yeah.
power, right? Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I think that's kind of like the downfall of the two-party system, the one-party system that we currently have is, obviously when the right is in power, no one's going to break rank, and same when Democrats were in power. Like that's what was so disappointing during the Biden years is that no one broke rank. And then when they did break rank, like Manchin and Sinema, they broke
hmm
right.
I think what the Democrats really want is like a centrist party. Like they keep reaching out to and the Republicans miss like the old school Liz Cheney Republicans really miss that like
Voted with Trump 90% of the time.
but I don't yeah again there's a disconnect though between the way that people vote and the way they portray themselves. So that's a can of worms I'm not going to get into. But I think we would be better off if we just had a like a boring ass like old people can vote for this centrist party and then upset people who have grievances with the way things are going vote left or right and the MAGA or woke. Then we can sort of like push and then form like coalitions that way with the center. I think that's like probably a more functional use of government
Mhm.
because doing this binary system is the way they average it out is so it's so broken and can't get anything done. They just figure out a way. And I think they also just really enjoy having a 49-51% like power. That way they
Oh.
can find reasons to never actually do anything.
Yeah, the big tent is the problem.
Can I read
Let's go.
one more bit from his speech that I think is really emblematic of how you should think about JD Vance? And like, I may eat shit on this, a couple years from now and be totally wrong. But I think this is a great example why people shouldn't really be worried about JD Vance moving into the future as far as like being the future of the right wing. This is just, again, going back to the complete absence of Riz. JD Vance tried his hand at making a little joke to get a laugh, and he got absolute crickets for this. So, towards the end of the speech, Vance says, even when people express views outside your own country, and even when those people are very influential, and trust me, I say this with all humor, if American democracy can survive 10 years of Greta Thunberg scolding, you guys can survive a few months of Elon Musk. He says this like
Oh,
with a big smirk, like he's gonna be like it's supposed to be a laugh line at like a roast, and it is absolute crickets
he puts
in the
himself in that
audience.
situation a lot, actually. I haven't seen this video, but I've seen him give speeches where
Yeah,
he's like, "This is a banger,"
he
and I don't
just
know if his
doesn't.
timing's
No,
bad,
he.
not the right
Well, it's a
audience. Yeah, it's
take your
not the right
pick.
audience. Yeah.
It's the wrong audience, bad timing, and not a good joke. Like we can all agree that Trump is charismatic and funny. That's something that we can all deal with. But like also the funny thing about bringing up Greta Thunberg is this really shows you how online everyone is in America to the like just within the American ecosystem to where they don't know what's going on in the rest of the world. It's like, like Greta Thunberg's not American and actually like has been way more active in Europe than
hmm
she ever was in America. Yeah, she's fucking Swedish. Her protest movement started in Scandinavia. And it's like, well, you imagine what we've been dealing with this Greta Thunberg. Am I right, boys? Yeah, like just but yeah, it's amazing that he really thought that was going to be a banger. And I think anyone really worried about the US becoming Gilead and JD Vance becoming the emperor, I think you should watch that video and you'll feel a little more at peace.
Did he make that comparison because they both have Asperger's? I don't think we should really worry about JD Vance because Donald Trump declines to endorse JD Vance as
Yeah.
2028 Republican successor. So
Yeah,
until he gets the green light, I'm not really worried about the
Well,
guy.
and Trump wants to run in 2028, I'm sure.
I don't think Trump wants to run in 2028
Ah.
necessarily. But yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about, that I don't think people on the left have wrapped their minds around. This is my opinion. Trump does not want a MAGA dynasty. I think Trump wants MAGA to die with him.
Hmm.
Like I don't think he likes the idea of ushering in his inauguration speech. He said, welcome to the golden
Thunderdome.
era. Yeah, he says, welcome to the golden age of America. We're ushering in the
Yeah.
golden age, right? He wants the golden age to be when he's in power. He
Yeah.
doesn't, that would piss him off so much if someone took up his mantle, took his thing. I mean, we're talking about the guy that tried to copyright the phrase "you're fired." He doesn't want anybody else to be doing his thing. What if they do it better? Also, the thing is, Trump, if there's one thing that Trump is legitimately good at, is picking winners and losers. Now, he can control who's a winner when he's fully in charge, so he can kind of tip the scale a bit. But I don't think he fully trusts that JD Vance is a winner. If
Yeah.
he was to endorse Vance right now, also, he's probably hedging his bets. He might still throw Vance under the bus in the next 4 years.
Yeah, who do you think will come first, Musk or Vance?
I think Musk
Uh,
is probably I don't know if he can throw Musk under the bus because he's just too power like it's not
yeah.
about the money, it's about the social influence. Like Musk actually has kind of a following and he has power online with social media. So I he probably wants to shoot Musk, but he probably won't do it.
If I were to be generous to Trump and imagine that he's as smart as can be at this stuff, which oftentimes when it comes to these interpersonal relationships, he proves himself to be. Yeah, he can't dump Musk because Musk bankrolled him. I mean, Musk is the
Hmm.
reason he won
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. So I don't think he can dump Musk, but I think he can let Musk dump himself. Like I think Musk is going to burn out on his own. He is taking the majority of the heat right now,
Yeah.
which is exactly what Trump needs, and he's bad at it. Like he's really bad at being a public figure. Musk was at his all-time popularity when no one really knew who he was, and you didn't have to see him talk that much, and you didn't have to hear about him that much, and people just thought he was Tony Stark or whatever.
Hmm.
Uh, but he's very, very, very unlikable and weird, and the more you see of them, the more you hate him. And
Yeah.
I think Trump's just gonna let that fire burn out on its own.
But it doesn't, yeah. The thing is, his popularity doesn't matter, you know? Like he was never
Yeah.
elected. It doesn't matter if he's also, this is a lame duck presidency. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
They
Yeah.
clearly are.
Yeah,
Vance, if he gets thrown under the bus, will be later, I think. But I
yeah,
think he will be. I think he will be thrown under the bus.
I could see like if they lose the midterms in some way, like that's when
Yeah.
blame will be d dished out
Yeah.
around. But I think these 2 years, everyone's gonna be patting each other on the back, breaking their arms, jerking each other off.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll put him in charge of something, like call him a czar of something.
Yeah, that's a big mistake that a lot of people in Trump's orbit are making this time around, where you see people thinking like I've said before, like everyone's feeling themselves right now, and people are thinking like, ooh, I'm with the king, I'm bulletproof. Fucking short fucking memories of his very well documented history of just fucking ruining people
Mhm.
who fuck up or don't fuck up.
Will Vance get the guillotine that was rolled out for Mike Pence?
Yeah.
If he tries to turn on him.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't see. I
which
don't
he
think he
might,
doesn't have the
which
spine. I don't think he's got the spine to do that. I think that there could be a coup of sorts from all of the Silicon Valley types that Trump has surrounded himself
Yeah,
with.
I think that's a good call.
Like, I think they could muscle him. Like, if anyone could, it'd be all the money and power that those guys have.
yeah,
I mean, that's clearly all
yeah,
they care about is money and power.
And I think that's kind of the agreement and understanding that they've come to is we'll run the show, we'll kind of like make the policies, and you get the fame and you get to be president, play president for a while.
Gut reactions?
Let's get it from the gut. That interview or that presser with Elon in the White House was hilarious. Like I couldn't believe that was happening. The way I think it was just an accident, mainly because Trump was sitting while Elon was standing and talking. And it's
Yeah.
like kid, like I don't know, like kids are kids, like they're weird.
Do you think it
Um,
was meant to embarrass Elon?
no, no. I mean, if it was, it had the opposite effect. I think it kind of embarrassed Trump. What do you mean embarrass? Why would it embarrass Elon?
I don't know. To be fair, I've only seen the Gaza's the condoms for Gaza clip, and just like the weird, like Trump looks really comfortable, where Elon kind of just looks awkward. I don't know. The fact that like one is standing and one is sitting, I don't know. I'm not like I guess I shouldn't read into like the power optics into it, but
Dan, let's see yours.
okay. Mine is just like a confirmation bias about how I think the world is moving in regards to Trump.
Axios caves to Trump will refer to Gulf of Mexico as of America. Yeah, this happened. This all kind of happened last week, right? Like Apple Maps, Google Maps, everyone kind
Yeah,
of. Oh, he flew over the Gulf of America and Air Force One
I didn't
made a
know
big
that.
stunt out of it. Well, I guess you don't really have to go too far if you're in New Orleans. This is such like chaff to me. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
mean any. The
this
Gulf of America.
was
It's like flying call Gulf America.
yeah, it's such a waste of time. It was always going to happen. Everyone was going to cave on this. And honestly, like we talked about before, like anybody who thinks it should be called the Gulf of America is a fucking loser. But kind of equally at this point, if you're on the left and you're still mad about them calling it the Gulf of America, it's like, I don't know, get over it. Like, let them have their stupid little thing
Yeah.
for now.
Do you think it'll go
Whatever. I
back?
don't
Do you think that'll
know.
nip it back whenever Trump leaves office?
Well, I don't know if the parliamentarian will allow the Democrats to do it if they get back in power ever. So they probably will do some stupid procedural thing that will get blocked or something. It might just be Gulf of America forever now.
I mean, we are in the Americas. In that sense, it doesn't really fucking matter. Like, just think about it
Oh,
as like a
so
neutral term. It's not the Gulf of the United States of America. This,
okay, Andrew's MAGA. All right. Now we
these are
know.
the things I say where people are like, it just doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter.
It's not
Um,
important.
how we know what it does though. I mean, obviously the base loves it. Huge W. I think some people think this was a territory claim. I think people now think we own that body of water. I would like there's a non-zero amount of people. I bet it's actually quite like 25% or something
Yeah, wait,
in
we
America.
don't own it now.
Yeah, d didn't we? Probably. I don't know. In a way, we own it because BP oil spill happened there, so you ruined it
Yeah,
anyway.
true.
Yeah,
What are you
it's
gonna fucking do about it?
Yeah.
it's shitty. It's shitty water anyway. No one should care.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. This has been Villain for All Seasons. Once again, I'm Ben.
I'm Andrew.
I'm done. What's up, guys?
Peed already.
What?
Peed everywhere already.
We just started recording.
Oh.